So here it is, Sunday afternoon at the end of April, and it's kind of rainy and miserable outside. And tomorrow, people go back to work, and all of you go back to school. So I haven't read you a foot of the bed story for a while, so it feels like tonight is a good night to do that. And I was looking through my office about a week ago, and I found this book called In God's Name, which is a really great book, and it has a great message too. So I thought I would read it to you. And when I finish doing this, I will feel like I've had a really good day because I went to church this morning and I did the worship service, and then we did coffee hour, and now I'm going to read this book. And later on tonight, I'm going to do youth group. So I will have talked to the adults and the children and the teenagers all in one day, which makes for a really good day. So, here is the story of In God's Name. And I hope that you like this story. I'll tell you a little bit more about it after it's all done. Okay, here's how the book starts. After God created the world, all living things on earth were given a name. The plants and the trees, the animals and the fish, and each person, young and old, had a special name. But no one knew the name for God. So each person searched for God's name. The farmer, whose skin was dark like the rich brown earth from which all things grew, called God source of life. The girl whose skin was as golden as the sun that turned night into day called God creator of light. The man who tended sheep in the valley called God shepherd. The tired soldier who fought too many wars called God maker of peace. The artist who carved figures from the earth's hard stone called God my rock. Sometimes the people who called God by different names were puzzled. They said every living thing has a single name: the marigold, pansy, and lily, the oak tree, sequoia, and pine. God must have a single name that is greater and more wonderful than all the other names. Each person thought his name for God was the greatest. Each person thought her name for God was the very best. The farmer who called God source of life said this is the true name for God. The girl who called God creator of light insisted this is the most splendid name for God. The shepherd, soldier, and artist believed they each had the perfect name for God. But no one listened, least of all God. And so each person kept searching for God's name. The woman who cared for the sick called God healer. The slave who was freed from bondage called God redeemer. The grandfather whose hair was white with the years called God Ancient One. The grandmother who was bent with age and sorrow called God Comforter. The young woman who nursed her newborn son called God Mother. The young man who held the hand of his baby daughter called God Father. And the child who was lonely called God friend. All the people called God by different names. They tried to tell one another that their name was the best, the only name for God, and that all other names were wrong. But no one listened, least of all God. And so each person kept searching for God's name. Then one day, the person who called God Ancient One, and the one who called God Friend, the one who called God Mother, and the one who called God Father, all the people who called God by a different name came together. They knelt by a lake that was clear and quiet like a mirror, God's mirror. Then each person who had a name for God looked at the others who had a different name. They looked into God's mirror and saw their own faces and the faces of all the others. And they called out their names for God: Source of life, Creator of light, Shepherd, Mother, Maker of peace, my rock, Healer, Redeemer, Ancient One, Comforter, Mother, Father, Friend, all at the same time. At that moment, the people knew that all the names for God were good, and no name was better than another. Then all at once their voices came together, and they called God One. Everyone listened, most of all, God. I like this book especially in this time when we're all in our own houses and we all can't wait for the day when we get to leave our houses and go back and see our friends and go back to school and see family who lives a long ways away. I can't wait for that day. But in the meantime, all of us in our own houses are praying and hoping that things will get better and that we can leave our house and all those things. And we're all praying to God and we're all using our own name. But you know what the truth is? We all have our own names for God, but we are all praying to God who has one name, and that one name is God, or One. So if we all lift up our prayers together, it doesn't really matter what we call God. God is so many different things. What really matters is that we all pray together. And if we all pray together and call God by all the names that we call God, then I think and I hope that the day will come soon when we will return to the life that we know and people can go back to their regular routines and we can go back to school and we can play in our neighborhoods and all those things. But until then, we pray every day to God and we look forward to things returning to normal. So with that, I hope that all of you have a good week of school, another week of listening to teachers online and doing all that schoolwork. I hope maybe there's some good days where we can be outside this week, although it seems like there's going to be some rain. And I can't wait to see all of your faces as we go through these weeks. So have a great day and sleep well tonight.